Welcome to Intentional Conversations. Conversations designed to inspire you, to ignite something inside of you, and to empower you to live a more intentional life that's full of meaning, fulfillment, and impact. I am so excited to be joined today by my friend Roxanna Kopp Smith. Roxanna is a yoga and meditation teacher, and she also facilitates groups, bringing them to sacred locations all over the world. Today, we're going to be talking all about transformational travel, specifically India, and why we both love it and why it's so important for her to bring other people to that sacred, beautiful country. So I'm so excited to have you join us. So come on in and join the conversation. Roxanna, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
Thrilled.
Oh, good. So before we get started, I always love to start and ask people, what does the word intention mean to you?
Thank you. I've been thinking about it. Intention to me means conscious. So when someone does something intentionally, they're doing it with conscious mind. And conscious, intentional, makes me think of presence, which is kind of what I'm all about right now. It's my new, this is the word. It used to be love. It's all about love. But right now it's all about presence.
I love that. And I'd love for you to expand a little more, like what does presence, because we hear that, and I love to really hear when people say these words that have profound meaning, like what does it really mean for you in your world?
Right. Well, I'm glad to be able to share because it really has morphed into this word, presence. Because if I'm present, I'm right here. I'm right here in the now. I'm looking at you. I'm listening to traffic outside. I'm feeling my heartbeat. I am right here. And from that place of presence, that's where I can be in love. That's where I can be tending to myself. That's where I can hear my intuition. That's where I can be the most available to you or to whomever I'm working with. So that's what presence means to me. And I don't think we can have anything, if we're not present. So, I could riff on that for the whole time, but
I love that.
It's profound. It's a big word.
It is. And I think it's one of those words where you sort of have to really experience it in order to really understand it. And so thank you for painting that picture of really what it looks like. Even when you were just saying it, I could feel my own system, like it's like becoming aware of everything
it's like
happening.
Dropping in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's intention, right? Like anything I want to do, if I set the intention, if I get present, and I get conscious to what's living right now, then I set my intention. I set my arrow. So.
I love it. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I'd love to bring in the work that you're doing. You facilitate these trips among many other things, but I really am excited to talk about these trips that you facilitate because one of the things I'm so passionate about is when we travel and we experience other cultures and other people, everything,
right.
We actually have the opportunity to grow and to expand and to transform. And so I love it. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about what led you to this place of where you're bringing groups to these sacred locations all over the world.
Thank you. There's a great quote, and I don't have it with me, but it's the poem, The Traveler by John O'Donohue, and it speaks to exactly what you were just saying about when we travel, we actually come home to ourselves. So we're taking ourselves completely out of the norm, and what's left, and it's like wherever you go, there you are. And so going to these amazing places really offers up the traveler the chance to go deeply within and come home, return home with this sense of self that they may not have experienced otherwise. And for me, there's no place like that than India to do that. I can't remember actually if you asked me how I got to India or why these trips.
Well, either way you want to go. I love hearing, what leads people to doing something that they're so passionate about, and you are, and the impact that you're having with the people that are coming on these trips with you. It's
Right.
so much more than a trip. And so however you want to, I'm just curious, your own story of
Yeah.
like, maybe we can start with why India specifically called to you, and then we can maybe go into, then I'm sure because of that love for India,
Yeah.
that's when you said, you know what, I'm going to start bringing people here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I in 2011, I was going through my Kundalini yoga teacher training, Kundalini yoga and meditation. And I was a mom of younger kids at that time. I was a stepmom. I was in a blended family, 5 kids, and life was pretty busy and dynamic. And doing this Kundalini teacher training was a big deal. It had an impact on my family. I was gone 4 days a month, just immersing in this training. And somehow I felt an inner call, a desire to go to India, but I had never been. I didn't know what to expect. It felt out of my comfort zone and out of my financial ability at the time. But I was really, and talk about, getting present to what is living inside. There was this voice of just, I really want to go to India. So it wasn't that characteristic of me at the time, but I said a prayer and I just said, okay, I'm really feeling the call to India. I don't know how, I don't know really why, but God, love, source, universe, if I'm supposed to go, please just pave the way. And for many different reasons, that particular year, my teachers decided to bring a group to India in 2011. They made it very affordable. And that particular year, my mom gifted me with a birthday check that was a lot larger than I normally get. Normally, I would get, however old I am, that amount. So that year I got a check that paid for my trip to India. And so that felt miraculous in its own right. And then getting there, what I was struck with, and this circles back to presence and travel and what travel can do for you. So I'm a mom. I'm a mom of young children. I'm a wife. I'm a business owner. I'm a community member. And I fly to India and I land in Delhi, and none of that was true anymore, in the sense that nobody knew that about me. Nobody cared. I'm in this country of a billion people, and I am a speck of sand. I'm a grain of sand. And for a while, that unhinged me. It was like my ego didn't know what to do. I was completely, who am I? Who am I if I'm not all of these things that make me who I am? And over time, that became so freeing. I'm so grateful. I was there for 2 weeks. And that journey was one of kind of crashing down and feeling insecure, feeling very vulnerable. Who am I? Where am I? I felt like the other side of the world. And it went kind of the dung and the lotus. I went down into the muck of who am I, into this blossoming of I am possibility. I am alive. I am connecting with people, other travelers. I am experiencing and exploring this very special place. And so that's a brief, probably more words than necessary, but that was my first entree to India.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think there are so many things there. And I think it's so important to highlight. One of the things that I talk about a lot is the callings that we have, right? And some are really big, some are really small. We're always having the call. And the question is, are we going to answer the call?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we answer, sometimes we don't, but the call is always there. And I love that for you. And it was such a great message for all of us to hear, that you felt the call, you heard the call, and you said, you know what? I don't know how to make this happen, but I'm going to pray for the resources. And if it's meant to be, it will come through.
Yeah.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times, so many of us hear it and we shut it down with, I can't do this right now.
Yes.
Instead of saying,
Yes.
you know what, let me ask, because this calling is coming from something greater than me. So if it is meant to be, the resources will show up. And I love that you spoke that so nicely, that this is what happened. And it was like, here you go. This is more. Your teachers were going, the timing really aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were able to answer that call.
Yeah.
And then the amazing thing, again, bringing it back to that whole hero's journey, is that it's
About
not,
thinking.
you don't just answer the call and you get to India and you're like, la, like
No,
it's like,
I know.
no, like you go, you crash, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's like
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of times those crashes are us like getting through to the landscape of ourselves.
Yep, that's what it
Meeting
was.
that inner place, right? And then you can become the lotus and emerge. And so I love that your story was so great and so simple, but yet you can see how for all of us, like sometimes maybe it's a call to India, sometimes it doesn't have to be that extreme, but it's all about feeling that. And going back to your word of presence, when we're present, we're able to hear more and to feel more. And that way we can really be up to answering all these calls, because on the other side of that, that's where the growth happens.
100%. And when I get present and I get quiet, that's when I hear the call. That's when I hear the voice. And I would add to what you said that I was very willing. I just didn't know how it was going to unfold. And I didn't know if the timing was going to be soon or later or never. And I wasn't attached. So those are kind of the magic components to something really beautiful happening. And I have to laugh because I took a selfie of myself on the plane when I landed in Delhi, because I flew by myself and didn't know who was meeting me, where I was. I had set something up overseas to stay at a homestay, but the photo of myself as I'm landing in Delhi, I'm sobbing, and I I don't know what the man thought of me who was sitting next to me. I was so scared. I was terrified. So it was truly transformational. And I knew when I came back from India that I wanted to bring other people to India, especially people who maybe felt a desire to go, but didn't know how they were going to get there, what it would look like, and people who might be scared to go to India the first time alone. So I knew that I could facilitate that and shepherd them in a way that I didn't have.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'd love for you to talk about this a little bit more, because so now you bring people, and I know from working with you and from being a participant on your retreats as well, that for you, it's not about just coming to see the landscape of India, right? It's much deeper. So I'd love for you to share why it's really structured to where this is not about just come and see India. Like it's really about this more transformational experience. And it speaks to you really being able to hold that energetic level of like safety, physically and energetically, right? You know the people there. And so what inspired you to make it more than just a trip to India?
Great question. And I think because of who I am, for one reason, I mean, I I have my background is in psychology. I've been a therapist. I've been a counselor. I've been a facilitator of groups. So I wanted to create really safe space. I wanted people to feel very held because I know for myself, traveling to India as a woman the first time, so much was unknown. And it really is, as much as India, we see it in movies or in TV shows or books, it, for a first timer, it can feel like you've just stepped out of a spaceship and you're on Mars. So that part of guiding is really something that I love to do. And I love to take people under my wing and make them feel really at home and comfortable. And I didn't want to just be a tour guide and say, here's the Taj Mahal, here is, here are the spice markets. That's all beautiful, and we do some of that. But my experience had been when I first went to India, I went up into Rishikesh, which is in the foothills of the Himalayas, and it's on the banks of the Ganges, which is the most sacred river to Hindus. And it's an entity, it's a deity, the Ganges. And my experience of practicing yoga and meditating in Rishikesh for 10 days and getting up at 4 a.m, which we don't do on my trip, or you can, but it's not mandatory. But getting up at 4 a.m. and going out in the dark and sitting on the banks of the Ganges and practicing yoga and hearing the monkeys in the trees and watching the sunrise, that was profound. And over the years of bringing people to Rishikesh specifically, as well as exploring some other areas of India, I knew that I wanted to offer people experiences that they may never experience again in their lifetime that would be profoundly impactful on their spirit. So when I say on these trips that you will be touched body, mind, and soul, it's really true. And when I say, I don't say to people, you will come back forever changed, but I actually know that it's true. And everyone who fills out their information card or their feedback form says, I am forever changed, or I am profoundly changed, or my heart has been completely opened. And I know that to be true. And I hold that as my intention when I create these trips and plan these very specific experiences that, because of knowing people in India and because of returning back year after year, each year it gets dialed in where there are more incredible experiences. And I'm happy to go into them, but I'm also very aware of talking a lot. So
no, you're great. This is so, I love hearing this. And the one thing I'd love for you to talk a little bit about for those people that may not know, you talked about the Ganges, the river there, which is the most holy river. And you said the river itself is a deity. And so for people that may not know, could you explain what a deity is? And then could you explain a little more about why the Ganges is considered so sacred and so holy?
Yes, I can. I'll do my best. Well, in Hindu religion, there are thousands of deities, which are gods and goddesses. So, for example, many people know about Lord Shiva, who is a particular deity, or Ganesha, the elephant god, who is remover of all obstacles. A lot of people don't know that Ganga, the Ganges, is a female deity in the form of water. She's the only deity in Hindu religion that doesn't take the form of a person. So Ganga is this incredible, life-giving, life-flowing deity that lives in Shiva's hair. So it's this sometimes you'll see a statue of Shiva and there'll be this little woman sitting back here. And she's Ganga, and she flows out of Shiva's hair into this river. And the Ganges originates in the Himalayas and comes out clear and swift flowing and cold. And so in Rishikesh, the Ganges is a very beautiful blue, and it's super clean and cold. And as it goes down and travels south through the land of India, it can get a little more sluggish and a little dirtier, but it's still very sacred. And Hindus use this river for purification. There are a lot of rituals around holiday time or around the moons, where women are dipping or men are dipping. People bathe in the Ganges. There are ceremonies for young boys when they get their hair shaved on the banks of the Ganges, and they're entered into the Hindu faith. It's just a very holy river. And for someone who is not Hindu, I experience the sacredness of the river, as do most, if not all, of the travelers that come with me. And I mean, I don't know if you would like to share your experience of dipping in the Ganges, but it's one that I really think is powerful.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it after you explained it, because I remember before I went. So the first time that I went to India, I was actually a participant on the retreat with you and Nancy. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had all my shots ahead of time, and there's a lot of people have opinions about, don't eat the food, don't get in the water, all of these things. And I knew that dunking in the Ganges was an option. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to wait, and I'm just going to see. I'm going to get all my shots. I'm going to get everything, and then I'll decide in the moment. And the first time, as with anyone, the first time I went to India, every time I've been to India, it has been incredibly transformational. And so obviously the first time, there's nothing like your first time. And my mind was blown. I mean, I was like emotional. I didn't know what was happening. But the time that we dunked closer to the end of the trip, and I remember standing there, and we were all there, and everyone was like dunking, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna wait. And without really knowing a lot around the callings and the yearnings and things like that, like I can see there are parts in my life where it was a yearning. I don't know that I would have described it like a yearning. But I remember, first of all, I remember someone on the trip who told me, she said, "Didn't you grow up in Louisiana?" And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "You probably water skied in water that was dirtier than this." And I remember I was like, "Oh, that's probably an accurate statement,
Uh-huh.
So I think that definitely helped. But I remember like just really wanting to like be with me and really listen. And I just felt I'm going in. And I went in, and it was amazing. And I say to this day, it's been several years since I've been back to India, but I literally would have dreams about dunking in the Ganges. Like it's just, water is a big thing for me anyway, but like when you combine like water with it having that sort of sacred entity as part of it, like it was just, it's so energizing and calming and clarifying, like all in one.
Yes.
And each time I've dunked, I've had a completely different experience, all profound, but just a really completely different experience. And so I personally think of everything that's offered on the trip, that to me is like dunk every day. Like if you have the opportunity to go and to dunk in those waters, you're in my opinion, you're missing out on like just really, it's almost like literally the representation of dunking in India, of like really, you know what I'm saying, like immersing all of you.
Yeah.
And so so it's great.
I love what you say about how it's calming, clarifying, and energizing all at the same time. And I agree. Like I remember how my skin felt that whole day, that after I dunked the first time. And I want to also point out, the first time I went to India, I was a no way. And I didn't. And I regretted it. And the second time I went back, I was a big yes, and never missed a chance since. But it is really just beautiful. And I know people who dunk and then they don't shower right away because they just want that river water on them for the rest of the day. It's very special. Very
Yeah.
special. It's great to hear you say it.
Yeah, no, I love that.
And
So
P.S.
yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I
go.
just loved how you talk about intentional and presence and listening within. I love how you just decided you'll know when you get there if you're going to do it. And then you did it. So perfect example.
Yeah, no, totally, totally.
Mhm.
So, okay, so now I'd love for you to share like what is, and I'll share mine as well, but I want to hear from you.
Mhm.
What do you love about India that will kind of give everyone listening or everyone watching an idea of like the spirit of India and her people?
Gosh.
If there's one sort of story, one event, just
Well, there is one incredible memory that's so etched in my mind. I hope it will give a sense of the spirit of India and of the people. And it's actually a memory with you in it. And it just covers all the bases. It was a night where we were in Varanasi, which is actually on the banks of the Ganges, sacred as ever, a little dirtier. But I mean, this memory has humor, it has sacredness, it's steeped in ritual and beauty. But we went, a friend of ours in Varanasi arranged for us to be rowed over the Ganges to a sandbar in the middle of the river in the evening for a special ceremony as we prepared for our group to arrive. So there was intention, absolute intention in that, and ritual, which is such a part of India, and it's such a part that I hunger for and love to provide on our trips. When we got to the boat, there were other people other people coming, which is also always the unexpected in India. I had no idea. There's some blogger from England, and I remember feeling a little like, I don't want her to be on our ceremony. And then there were all these other priests, and I didn't, it was a cast of characters that I wasn't planning for, and this wonderful boatman who literally hand rowed us over to the sandbar. And I remember laughing with you and speaking quietly, saying, I'm not putting a toe in this river, because Varanasi, the Ganges, is much different. That's often where the bodies that have been cremated, the remains are put into the river. There's all kinds of stuff happening in that river. So I was just high and mighty. I'm not putting a toe in this river. We land on the banks. Our beloved guide says, step out, get out. And I remember I felt like we were Lucy and Ethel. I looked at you, I'm like, ah. You
well,
looked
and
at
I think I told you, I said, I'm not doing it. And you were like, you've got to get out of this boat right now. Wait, this is disrespectful. I'm like, you just said we're not putting a toe in the Ganges.
And suddenly we're lifting up, rolling up our pant legs, taking our shoes off, looking at each other. I'm praying silently that I do not step on a bone as my feet get out into the mud. And then, so that happens. Then we get to this beautiful white sheet. We sit down. Literally, the sky is purple. There's a full moon rising. It's the most incredibly beautiful, peaceful moment. We're looking across the river to Varanasi in all its chaos and all the lights coming on over there. We're on this quiet sandbar, and these priests are presiding over us as they light a sacred fire, and we are offering our prayers and intentions to this particular night and to the rest of our India trip. And the boatman is standing watch over us and keeping us safe from the wild dogs that are on the sandbar. I mean, there were so many things happening at once, but the memory I have is just of the extreme beauty and the peace and the quiet and the stillness. And my heart was just so full. There was no other place I wanted to be in that moment other than that experience.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That was probably one of the most sacred experiences that I've ever experienced as well. And I'm so grateful. And that's the thing that also speaks to the spirit of the people there. Like Somit, our friend there, it was like, this is what we want. He's like, let's go. They organize it, they put it together, and they make it happen. And they hold the space, like you're saying, like the boatman, like they're holding the space to allow us to have the best possible
The
experience.
experience of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I would also add that that's also part of India, and it sounds cliche, but going with the flow. I don't think anyone goes with the flow as well as Indians. Like they teach me when I'm in India, I slow down, and everything that I think, every way that I think it should look gets exploded. So that, of course, there's going to be a blogger, an English blogger on our boat ride. Of course, there are going to be extra priests. Of course, there are going to be wild dogs. It just becomes the experience, the masala, the blend of flavors. And there's no way to repeat that particular experience. That was it. So
yes.
perfect.
And even going towards what you're saying, like I remember after we took 2 steps in the river in Varanasi, I remember you saying, well, obviously Shiva wanted us to put our foot in this location, not up in Rishikesh, right here. And that's something that we don't know what kind of experience that had touching that water. We have no idea. Like that could have been why each of us had a profound experience that night on that sandbar, So it is about going with the flow and trusting that everything is happening in the right time and as it should, because I have that intention that I'm here to grow and I'm here to learn and I'm here to meet the depths of who I am.
Yeah. And that's what it does. That's what India does. I think that's what sacred travel does. I'd love to hear what your experience is.
Yeah, so mine, I don't know if you remember this, but
I'm sure I do.
I think it was when I was there on the trip with you guys. So I was a participant and we were in Rishikesh, and there's a bridge that you can cross and you walk across it. And there are all these, like, because the water's so clear, you can see they have these like big fish, and so I'm seeing these kids are like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the fish, they're like so big. And so this little Indian boy, he hands me bread or some sort of food. And I'm like, oh, thanks. And so I'm feeding the fish and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so then he looks at me and he said, and I may get my rupees wrong, but he's like, it's like 5 rupees, which would be the equivalent of like 2 cents. But
yes.
The problem is that I didn't have any rupees on me. I don't know if I was going to the ATM. I'm not sure what was happening, but I had nothing on me to give him. And so I looked at him and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I don't have any. And I was digging through my purse to see if like there was something that dropped. And so I'm like, I don't have any. And so he looked at me. He then gave me the 5 rupees because he thought I was saying like, I don't have any money. And so he went to give it to me. I'm like, oh no, you can't, but it was just, and I love that story because we hear so many times where people are like, oh, watch your purse, watch this, watch that. I have never, in all the times I've been in India, I've never felt unsafe. I mean, there have been a couple of times, but that was different experiences in terms of the locations of like being in Varanasi or being in Rishikesh. I've never felt unsafe. And that to me speaks to the spirit of the people. That little boy, he was maybe 9 or 10 years old. And so I love that story.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think the people I have met on my travels in India, and including you, when we've traveled together, to be invited to someone's home is so special. And to have people who have very little compared to what I have in the Western world, sharing all that they have, or creating a meal that is sumptuous, considered sumptuous, and it's just really profound. It's very impactful, and I think it's important for Westerners, all Westerners, to experience a heart-based culture, because even though there are people who are trying to make a living or trying to get ahead or wishing for better, the I truly experience people coming from the heart a lot more than I do here in the US. And it's beautiful. And I think that's why so many people have heart opening experiences when they go to India. And a lot, like this last trip I did last year, so many of the participants made lasting connections with people in India. And I don't think they were expecting that often, you know, like, so someone might experience their favorite henna vendor, or the man that we stay with in Rishikesh, his family takes us on as family. And so it's really cool to see people having that experience as well, halfway across the world.
I love that. I love that. And so we've done a lot of talking around what India is and why we love it and the experiences that are available to people. I know you have a trip coming up to India later this year and then Peru next year, but I'd love for you, is there anything else you want to add just to paint a picture of what people could experience, what's available for the November trip to India that you're putting on?
Yeah, sure. I would just add, like, I think a lot of folks, if not all the people who sign up, are often saying, gosh, I'm not really a group person. And so, I'm not sure how this is going to work out. And so one thing I want to say is I'm not really a group, like I wouldn't necessarily go on a group trip. However, the way this is set up is that it's a wonderful way to get a flavor of India and be held. And we go up to Rishikesh, which is again on the Ganges, and everybody has their own way to experience India. And there's a lot of free time every day for people to have their own time or their downtime. But we also do these beautiful ceremonies on the banks of the Ganges, similar to what I was describing about Varanasi as one of my favorite impactful moments. We do fire ceremony by the river. We dunk in the river. We do a ceremony for our ancestors, which is a beautiful honoring of our lineage, where we have Hindu priests, what do I want to say? They're officiating, they're holding it and leading it. It's not a yoga retreat per se, but we do have yoga every day offered, as well as meditation. Both yoga and meditation are offered 2 times each day. And if you've never practiced yoga in India, it's incredible. I mean, just there's something about India being the birthplace of yoga, and to practice yoga or to meditate in silence in caves by the river or in the morning before the sun has risen. It's transformative and it's transcendent. So we do, and there's just incredible meals provided and outings, and the group coheses, we come together, and that's such a cool thing too, because I love group dynamics. I study group dynamics. I know that in order for a group to come together, it takes a while. And we have 10 days. And of course there are ups and downs, but I'll tell you, on that last day, people are feeling like they have new family. It's beautiful.
I love that. That's great. And yeah, anything else? Were you going to say something else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And we'll link to everything in the notes, just so that way where people can find you, both your websites and then social media, which I know you're, where are you most active, on Instagram or Facebook?
Yes, mostly Instagram. We have a Facebook page for the tour company, and I have a personal Facebook page, but I'm mostly on Instagram. Okay. I do have a giveaway. I'm not sure if you want to talk about that.
Absolutely. Go. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I love doing in India is I do guided meditations in the evening for everyone as they settle down and get ready before bed, because it can be, first of all, jet lag and traveling that far, and also just the impact of the sensory load of India can be kind of wild. So every night we do a guided meditation and get everyone settled, and it's beautiful. And so I have a guided meditation for relaxation that I recorded in India that if anybody would like it, they are welcome to send me their contact info, and I will get a link over to them for that.
Perfect. So we'll just include your email and they can email
Yes.
you. And
Yes. That'd be
perfect.
great.
Awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. That's very relaxing.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of your meditations and you
Mhm.
just have, obviously you're a trained meditation teacher, but there is something so soothing and impactful about experiencing one of your guided meditations. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm happy to share it.
Yeah. Great. So to close, I typically like my guests to share one tangible tip that someone can use, they can apply to their life as soon as they finish listening, as soon as they stop watching this. And in order to apply right now, in order to feel more intention in their life. And
Mhm.
so you've got so much experience from being a Kundalini teacher to a meditation teacher to facilitating groups. I'd love for you just to draw on any sort of thing that you think could help someone right now to move
Yeah.
that needle forward.
I've got a very right now tool. It's so simple, but this is just a reminder. What I suggest is people putting, let me just tilt this a little, just hand on the heart, just placing their hand on the heart, one on top of the other, closing the eyes, taking a deep breath in, and then asking themselves, what does my heart want me to know right now? What does my heart want me to know right now? And you'll always get an answer. I think, I mean, you might not always like the answer, but you'll always get an answer. And so it might be, I'm scared, or I want to do this, or I'm here, or whatever. But that's a way of getting present immediately, just taking that breath in, landing, feeling the heart. I'm present, I'm here. Okay, what do I want to say to myself? What do I want to know? Got it. Now, go out with intention.
Mm. I love that. That's so beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You can do that anywhere, in the car, when you wake up, whatever, by yourself, in the bathroom, quiet. Nobody needs to
Yeah.
know. Mm-hmm.
Even and it's probably more impactful with the hands on the heart, but I would say like even if it's you're in a crowded space and
Yeah.
way to do that, you can still
Mhm.
almost visualizing your hands going on
Yes.
your heart and ask
Yes.
like what's needed right now, what's
Yes.
happening right now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't know, but for some reason I just saw you doing that. I know you know this tool, and yeah, you can do it at a cocktail party. You can just take
Yeah,
a moment. What do I need to know? Maybe I need
right.
to go home. Whatever. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And Roxanna, I can't thank you enough for being here and for sharing your light and your wisdom with all of us. I know as someone who's experienced India as a participant of yours and someone who's co-facilitated with you,
Mhm.
the impact that you have and
Mhm.
to watch that and then to see how it's evolved over these
Mhm.
past years and
Yeah.
you really standing in this work that you are meant to do and the impact that you're having for all of these people who are coming on these groups with you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you so much for guiding so many of us to step into our heart and open our hearts and to experience more.
Well, thank you, Melanie, and also thank you for doing what you're doing. I just deeply bow to you as well. I love you, and you're a force in this world, and I'm so glad to see you putting yourself out there.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. I have no doubt that you're leaving inspired, perhaps a little intrigued. And I recommend if you feel any sort of calling to experience travel that has an opportunity to transform you, for you to meet something inside of you, reach out to Roxanna. She truly walks her talk. She is a light, and her greatest gift, in my opinion, is that she can hold space for people. And it's in through that holding that it allows those in her group to actually go deeper and to allow the transformation and the growth that's available to them. I'm so grateful to Roxanna and even more grateful for the work that she is doing in this world and the impact that she's having. And we'd love to hear from you. What are your takeaways? What are your insights? And as always, share it with a friend. Maybe you bring a friend to her trip in November in India, but share this with someone. Really, we all grow, we all learn together. When one of us goes, we all go. So thank you so much for sticking around and for joining us in this conversation. And I'll see you next time on the next Intentional Conversations. Until then, have a beautiful and intentional day.